Brian Benedict, Global Head of Sales at Spotify. I am here today at Advertising Week with ARF.
Hi, Gail Fugit, CEO and President of the Advertising Research Foundation, here with Brian Benedict.
Yes.
Benedict,
Yes.
who is the new Global Head of Sales at Spotify. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. All of 2 weeks old.
What did you do how'd that happen?
No, I might be a glutton for punishment, Gail, but no, in all seriousness, wonderful opportunity. I was overseeing the North American business the last 2.5 years, and now they're giving me a wonderful opportunity to oversee the global business. And so this Ad Week is, in many ways, my coming out party. It's been 2 weeks now, so
It's exploding on you, right?
Yeah, but fun.
And
No complaints.
It's going to be really, really a huge opportunity for you. So your company is really at the epicenter of all the change that's going on right now, and you clearly have put yourself there. I'm curious how you think advertising works today.
Yeah. No, it's a good question. It's funny running into a lot of colleagues the last day and a half as Ad Week started. We're having these conversations. To your point, I think there's a massive shift in how content's being consumed. Right, this idea of content that used to just be fed to us in a lean back fashion. I think now, particularly this millennial generation, this on-demand function is big. I think this pivot to mobile has impacted us a ton as well. So you take the shift from owning content to now accessing content, and you take this mobile-led generation. Both of those are fueling Spotify, and I think that's really an advantage for marketers too, and advertising. I mean, it's a hugely disruptive time, right? Transformative in many ways, extremely opportunistic time, but I think brands and the marketing community need to think quite a bit differently than they did prior, because some of the old things that worked might not work today. And so we've got a front row seat to all of it.
Say a little more about how you deal with that. You're still referring to it as an opportunity.
Yep.
How do you, both mindset and then also just the approach, how do you address and create change like that in such a short period of time?
Yeah, I think, well, just right for clarity, so we have the freemium model at Spotify, right? So you have sort of a choice, is so that if you want to be a subscriber, it's $9.99 a month for unlimited access to the entire 30 million song catalog. That gives you no ads, a little bit better sound quality for the big sound buffs out there, and this sort of offline function which allows you to listen to music in environments where you don't have a cell signal or Wi-Fi. So that's sort of the subscription business. The free business is still free. So if you want to consume Spotify either on a mobile device or on a desktop, you can still come in for free. That's supported by brands and ads. And so it's something we feel very strongly about. This freemium model needs to stay together. It's a big way that we sort of upsell and upgrade our consumers to subscriber. A lot of them come in for free, they test the product, and then it's this idea of, hey, I love this, let me sort of take advantage of this experience at $9.99 a month. You got to be very careful on how you do that, right? Users, particularly millennials, are very fickle with this. One of the things.
Say more about that.
Yeah, I think one of the things we've been fortunate with, Gail, is we've never compromised sort of the trust of that user. We are very careful, particularly in the free business, on how many ads we serve. It's a very low ad load, right? Because what we find is these millennials in particular, they love Spotify, but the more that you bark at them with ads, they're out.
What do they love about it?
Well, I think what they
customization.
Yeah, I think they love the idea of having on-demand content. They love the idea of discovering new artists, of sharing playlists, of socializing music, of just this new way of consuming content that they never had before, grabbing music from the cloud and being able to listen to it across devices. That's what they love. And so there's the idea of having to download a song, right, which is really what Apple created 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
That was a big shift from buying a CD before that or buying a tape before that.
Sure.
I think what Spotify has done is been able to introduce or really create the streaming generation.
Yes.
To where now, let's say, I don't have to download anything anymore. I could just sort of grab it depending on what device I'm on.
Got it. I love it. All right, so I love this term, the barbecue playlist.
Yes.
So kick that around a little bit. What's
Well-
the barbecue playlist?
Well, it's a very good question. So we
Now,
have.
I'm going to get right down to specifics. We did a little reconnaissance, and I know that you like electronic dance music. So is there any of that? Any EDM?
There might be. There might be.
And the barbecue playlist.
You know, the answer is yes. So
Okay.
I love you. Being a research foundation, you do good research. So congrats.
I take no personal credit.
What I will tell you, I think, just to zoom out for a second, this whole barbecue playlist phenomenon goes back to a strategy that recently we've deployed, which is people are listening to music in different ways today than they used to. It used to be all about genres, and I like pop, I like hip hop, I like EDM. There's still some of that today. What we're finding on Spotify, what is now over-indexing on genres, is listening to music around moments. So for example, globally,
okay.
we've got 400,000 playlists around the world that somehow have barbecue in them. So what it tells us is,
Seriously?
yeah, believe it or not, so
You say 400,000?
400,000, so globally, somehow have barbecue in the playlist. So what it tells us is people love listening to music
That's
while they're barbecuing.
probably more than food recommendations, right?
It's really crazy, right? How
Yeah.
people label their playlist.
Yeah.
But what it tells us at Spotify, again, in an on-demand environment,
Yes.
people are sort of making declarations
Yes.
within Spotify of
This is
what
my
they're
moment.
doing at this time.
Yes.
This is my moment.
Yeah.
So whether it's running, whether it's working out, whether it's
Yeah.
partying, whether it's barbecuing,
Yeah.
we sort of have a good idea of what they're doing. So
Yeah.
for brands and for the advertising business, it's really helpful because I can sit down with the brand and literally showcase
Absolutely.
through these declarations what people are doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And really, what we're saying to brands is, if you want to own a moment on Spotify,
Yeah.
it's there to take. So
Yeah.
we don't have a taker yet on barbecue,
Yeah.
but this idea, I mean, think of just a little bit forward. If Home Depot or Lowe's is looking to push barbecues in the spring, right,
Yeah.
for the summer season, we have an environment by which you can do that. I think a better example is we've got a lot of playlists around running. So people love to create and publish
Sure,
playlists.
that
So-
makes perfect sense.
So Nike is a big partner of ours,
Uh-huh.
and they really own, in a large sense, the running moment on Spotify. And we're doing some innovative things with them now. I'm not sure if you heard, but we recently created this section on Spotify literally called Running, and we have an EDM artist, Tiesto, is building and curating songs around this moment. And Nike is actually going to be integrating that experience into their own running app here in the fall. So some really exciting things that we're doing with brands. You know, advertising is part of it, but it's more of a brand partnership that we're creating. And certainly, I think the barbecue opportunity is there to take. You know,
How is it evolving, and what do you think the role of between we're saying we say brands are built in the brain, right, through our neuroscience
Sure.
work, some of which has been also done on audio, but I think brands are also built between your ears,
Yes.
right? So
No
how
question.
do you frame that up a little bit?
Yeah, I've always thought, you know, to your point, I've a lot of my career has been in the radio business, and I always felt like a bit of an underdog with the audio format because I'm not sure it ever got its due, you know, next to video and some of these other formats, or television at the time. So I think we're entering with, you know, brands like Spotify and some of the other music services a bit of a renaissance in audio. I think brands and advertising agencies, research foundations are
Yeah.
realizing that, you know, with the right creative, you can do some special
I
things
love that.
and activate audience in some really special ways. So we're really excited about that. I mean, we feel as the biggest global player in this space, we sort of carry that. It's not a burden necessarily, but it's really something that we want to push forward, innovate around audio, and bring that to the foreground. So it's something I think has a lot of runway. It's something we talk about a lot, being sort of an audio platform. And I think it's you'll see us doing a lot more work the next couple of years around that.
And where is it most consumed these days? With headsets in the car, in the,
Yeah.
in the subway?
Yeah,
Or
believe
do
it
you
or-
have any in the office? Is
Sure.
it-
You know, what we find is, and one of the, just to step back, one of the advantages Spotify has, we've got all this first-party data, right? So we got a fully
I know you do. That's why I'm asking
authenticated
you, 'cause
audience,
you
right?
know.
Yeah, and having a
You
fully
can tell me down to the household, but you're not going to.
We're not going to. We're not going there. What we do enjoy though is having all of this fully authenticated audience. We can sort of follow your listening patterns throughout the day. So we find, to no surprise, a lot of folks will take Spotify on a mobile device to start the day, whether it's in the subway, whether it's in a car, whether it's, you know, connected to your dashboard. Then when they get to the office, they'll fire up the Spotify app on their desktop. That becomes an at-work experience. And then we'll find towards the end of the
different
day,
music.
different music.
The at-work is going to be a different
No
different
question.
playlist.
We have sort of
Is
going.
there the at-work playlist?
There's an at-work playlist that if you look.
Trying to keep
in
my
in
boss
our-
from bugging me playlist.
That's exactly right. If you look in the curated playlist section of Spotify, we actually have hundreds of playlists around focus, around concentration. Right?
Oh,
So
excellent.
You talk about these moments that we're doubling down on.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, there's a lot of those that get fired during the workday because people are just trying to concentrate.
I
during
do.
work, right?
Yeah.
So those are pre-built for you. You don't
Well,
have to do
especially
any
that,
work.
open offices, right?
Exactly right. So you got a lot of headphones
More
in,
common.
folks sitting next to each other, by the way, our office included. So we
Yeah.
got a lot of headphones in, and so
Yeah.
people are immersed in
Coffee
their
shop.
own project. A coffee shop.
When I was retired, I spent all my time at the coffee shop.
Of course, that's a big area for us. You know,
Yeah.
so we see a
And
lot
Wi-Fi.
of listening in these
It
areas.
was a Wi-Fi tram. I just stick my laptop around from
We
coffee
like
shop
those.
to coffee shop.
We like those. Well, you know, one of the fun advantages I mentioned earlier with the premium version of Spotify is that you don't need a Wi-Fi or a cell connection. If you wanted to get into the subway, there's this little button that you can hit called offline, and it basically takes
Oh,
your
got
playlists.
it. That's like airplane mode, huh?
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And it takes them with you, so it allows me. I do quite a bit of traveling in my old job and certainly
Oh,
my
wait.
current
Just
job.
wait, doll.
I'm sure it's coming. And you know, the ability to listen to Spotify on a plane without being able to pull Wi-Fi is pretty cool. So,
Yeah, that's totally cool.
and I think to be fair, we're still in sort of the early stages, Gail, of explaining, you know, why subscriptions make sense for users. I think this is so new. You know, we've got 20 million subscribers around the world. You know, we're actually believe it or not, Spotify is the fastest growing streaming content play globally in terms of our growth. But we're still
Of any content.
of video, of audio. So we have a unique position there. And I think we're still explaining.
I wish I knew this, but do you have storytelling books on too,
Well,
or it's all music?
So it's music and comedy, but it's a very topical question that you ask. We recently announced back in May that we're diversifying our content. So you're going to start seeing short form video content very soon in your Spotify feed. You're going to start seeing spoken word podcast
How about an
content.
interview with me and you for the Advertising Research Foundation?
That exactly
Where
right.
We have that on
Those
Spotify.
are things we should be doing. But in all seriousness, you know, what we found is our users said to us, like in the morning, for example, hey, we love listening to music, but how about you give me a TED Talk in the morning? Give me some inspiration as I get to the office. Maybe they want a 60-second
Yeah, it's about
recap.
that much
of-
content. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe they want a 60-second recap from Vice News of world events. You know,
Sure.
maybe they want you know, some news and some traffic in the morning on the way. So our users have said to us, we love Spotify, but we want more content. And so you're going to see, we've rolled this out to about 5% of our users. In the fall, you're going to see this rolled out to 100%. And I think it's going to be sort of the new Spotify, which we're excited about.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, so I want to go back even to just from the standpoint of helping people with advice, kind of telling me your story and what kind of skills do you think are going to be needed to be successful today? You're probably thinking about that yourself. It's a good moment of self-searching, right?
I am.
With your new job that you have.
Absolutely. Well, I can tell you, right, and this, talk about a great week of inspiration. I love Adweek because it allows you to listen and learn along with participate, right? But what I love doing is just this is kind of my graduate school this week, is how could I, you know, pop into sessions and really digest what's going on, because it's a full-time job now, and you know that, Gail. It used to be a very siloed world. It used to be very easy running a 30-second TV spot or creating a 60-second audio spot. Now, to your question, data is so important. I mean, just understanding how data informs investment decisions for brands, understanding the programmatic
How do you
space.
do that? Was that your educational background, or?
Yeah, part of it self-taught. To be honest with you, like, I'm no expert, right? But I lean on a lot of people internally who are of a data background to help me. But I'm dangerous enough now to be in a conversation with a CMO or folks at a brand that can sort of help steer that conversation. But we've got dedicated folks in the building that are data scientists, analytics folks that I lean on all day. So I learn a lot from them. I learn a lot in these type of forums. You know, so data is a big one. I think how media gets transacted the next couple of years, right? Programmatic and automation. We've been talking about this in the ad business for the last 10 years. It's here, and you know, we've got a programmatic effort that really has developed.
So how is the next generation going to go and assess all these different approaches and perspectives? You know,
Yeah.
like you've had a decently long career, so you probably know how to curate it and like that one doesn't make very much sense and that one, right? At least
Sure.
you can stay down the middle of the road.
Sure.
Your wherever your middle is,
Yeah,
even
yeah.
if it's a future out middle. I'm really curious how you help the next generation, how we can all help the next generation. You know, we have over 1,500 young pros in New York City alone. And so how are we going to help the next generation with the skills that it's going to take to get smarter faster
Yep.
and then to apply what they learned to their own
Totally. Yeah, it's a
job.
very relevant topic to me because I feel very strongly about this. You know, my sales team now globally, a lot of them are in their 20s and 30s, right? These are not people that are on the tail end of their career. They're at the beginning of their
How
career.
many do you have now?
We have now 250 people globally.
Right.
You know, so it's
Yeah.
a large team.
Yeah,
and
very
but
spread out.
Very spread out. But I think it's incumbent upon the publisher or the platform, in this case Spotify, to be very honest with them and say, guys, you know, the world today is not what's going to be the world 5 years from now. So I think having training is super important. So we invest quite a bit in training at Spotify. We've got a global training lead, and we've got every quarter we've got a trainer from the outside that comes in and helps. But I think it's also identifying 3 years out what are going to be the important areas in advertising that a sales team needs to focus on. I'm not sure it's going to be selling media. I think machines might be able to do that for us, right? This idea of programmatic and having automation help us with what used to be a lot of labor-intensive work from the buy and the sell side. I think that's now going to be, you know, helped by a machine.
And what about bots and fraud?
Yeah, well, for us,
Ad blocking.
we think a lot about that. You know,
Yeah.
thankfully, as an app, you know, a lot of that doesn't apply to Spotify, right?
Yeah.
A lot of that is sort of on the mobile web. So
Yeah,
most,
less so for Spotify, but more I'm thinking on the, just in terms of looking at what's at machines buying media, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that's going to ultimately collapse?
Yeah,
under that?
I think here's the way I look at it, Gil, because I think it's a really important. I think we're all getting, to some degree, understandably tied up in this ad blocker
Yeah.
craze. To me, issues
Yeah.
like viewability, issues like ad blocker, those are they're sort of stop signs for the industry to say, listen, we might have gone too far in some of these areas. It's time to pull back a little bit. So the idea of creating quality inventory, not just infinite inventory, right? Quality inventory for the brands and marketing community to
Yeah.
really get benefit from.
Yeah.
You know, the idea of treating the consumer and the user in a way that doesn't compromise their trust. I mean,
Yeah.
I think we're seeing the ad blocker craze explode because users, what it tells me is users are saying, we've had enough. You guys are blasting me. It almost looks like NASCAR out there, right, on the web. You're blasting me with all these ads, and I've had enough. So to me, it's a way for the publisher community, in fact, the ad community, buy and sell side, to get together and say, let's get this fixed, you know, and let's sort
Yeah.
of self-police
Yes.
here to create, you know, an experience for users that is better than today. So
Yes.
that's the way I think about it. I think it's, if you look at this in it as a whole, there's just a lot of noise out there, but to me, we've got to self-police a little bit. If
Got
that
it.
makes sense. Yeah.
Other advice you'd give the next generation?
Just be intensely curious. I
Okay,
think,
that's good, yeah.
I think the idea of this lean back and, you know, everything will come to me, I don't buy into any of that. I mean, I think the company needs to take it upon themselves to train you. I think there also is responsibility from the worker, the employee, to say, hey, I got to make sure I read a ton, I experience a ton.
I was going to ask you how you do that.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I tell my sales team, particularly here in New York, I say, listen, guys, here's what I want you to, in a week like this, get out.
Out
You know,
and about.
I'll pay for the
Yeah.
badges. We'll take care of
Yeah.
all that for you. I want you going to seminars. I want you networking.
Yeah.
I certainly don't want them leaving Spotify. I don't want them networking too much, but
Yeah.
I want them learning, and I want
Yeah.
them to be unbelievably curious. To your question, I spend, you know, and part of this is I've got 3 kids and I live up in northern New Jersey, so in order for me to get into the city, I got to leave early. But I get up
Yeah.
at 4:30 in the morning. My first hour is reading. I
Yeah.
am just, you know, consuming everything that's happening the day prior,
Yeah.
and just making sure that's sort of, you know, that's my hour of learning.
Yeah.
And it prepares me for the day. It sort of gets me going.
What do you read? You have a
Everything
news feed. You create a feed for
everything
yourself.
I do. Twitter is an
Yeah.
important sort of news
Yes.
feed for me now.
Yes.
I also read the New York Times in the morning. I read
Yes.
Ad Age. I read studies, things from the Research Foundation.
Yes.
This is what I'm digesting every day. But Twitter is my first go-to, followed by the New York Times, and then I'll sort of hop around depending
Yeah.
on how much time I have left. But
Yeah.
that's my personal
Yeah.
deal.
Our research reconnaissance uncovered one more little nugget, which I have to send you off with
Okay.
because you're going to probably go back to northern New Jersey, that you love New Jersey more than a fat kid loves to eat cake. And so we're going to just like tie that with a bow and you can figure out where we got that from.
I could guess right away.
Right?
I think it's my friend Jeff Rossi, but
I just want to thank you so much for the time, for investing your heart and soul in this business and being so passionate about it. We totally need leaders like you in the industry, and it's just been a gift to spend time with
Thank you. Pleasure for me as well, Gil.
Thank you.
Thank you.